Welcome to Stu and the Nun, episode 365. Stu and the Nun both have the night off, so you're stuck with me, Rob, the unpaid producer, and I have my friend of the show, Sean, here with us. Sean, how are you?
I'm good. Thanks for having me, Rob.
Yeah, boy, do we have a show tonight. There are no shortage of topics.
No shortage.
So let's kind of jump right into it. The first thing I wanted to talk about was Ukraine, right? So for the last several years, Ukraine, Russia, I mean, this has been a conflict for going on for a couple of years, and we never quite know what truth we're getting out of there, because obviously none of us are there. But I think for the most part, we view Russia as the big bad, right, and the big powerful military, and going in and really dominating Ukraine. Now, that being said, this has gone on for a couple of years. So, what if Russia is so powerful a military, why have they not been able to take care of Ukraine, right? So now I think one of the answers to that is NATO and U.S. aid, right? We're supplying them with weapons. We're supplying them with money. We're supplying them with resources. There's even U.S. citizens over there fighting on the front lines. So
that's right.
What do you think?
I think a lot of it has to do with the money, perhaps the sanctions to a degree, but it sounds like Putin has insulated himself, or at least did for quite some time, against those sanctions. I think the money, more than anything, they've been able to insulate themselves, purchase arms, just purchase their way through this thing for quite some time. It seems to me that, I mean, just from a casual observer, just like yourself, right? It seems to me that they've been extending this longer than it should be.
Right. Well, I mean, Russia's getting backing from China, right? I mean, China,
right.
We don't really have any sanctions other than, the tariff war going on with China. But China's, I mean, they're not hurting for money. Not really. I mean, they could be, but you never know. So, I mean, you've got, on one side, you've got the U.S. funding Ukraine. On the other side, you've got China funding Russia. Three of the biggest bads in the, on the globe right now. And we almost seem to be in a stalemate until recently, when Ukraine struck into Russian territory, into mainland Russia, with what I thought was pretty ingenious in their drone strike. I mean, I saw a meme earlier this week, and I wish I could have found it for the show, and it showed a U.S. aircraft carrier, and it was, I forget which one, and then it showed like a UK Russia aircraft carrier, and then it showed a Ukraine aircraft carrier, and it was a semi-truck and trailer.
It almost reminds you of one of those spy versus spy 1960-ish Mossad type, let's go kidnap the Nazis in South America type
Right.
operations.
Right.
That's kind of what it reminds you of. They hid drones inside wooden crates on trains going into Russia, and apparently got fairly deep inside. And by various reports, they took out anywhere from a third to half of Russia's long range bombers that they used to deliver heavy munitions and
Right.
potentially WMDs. So it's significant. I mean, who knows how much truth there is to any of this?
Right.
Because, I mean, apparently Donald Trump was taken by surprise.
Yeah, and I've got a video for that. That's a good segue into the video I want to play. There's we saw in Trump's first administration, we saw where things, uh, either hidden from him or used against him. And this video I'm going to show, I think we're kind of going down that same path. So let me pull that up and let's watch this real quick.
Sure.
All of this is that they
I did that.
Of the U.S. intelligence community that absolutely knew about this Operation Spiderweb and hid it from the President of the United States and the White House upper echelons of the national security leadership. And particularly, there are a lot of questions surrounding, as you've mentioned, Senator Lindsey Graham, but also former CIA Director Mike Pompeo, who is currently right now in Odessa, Ukraine. And there's a lot of questions about who actually is the head of the CIA, because Mike Pompeo is over there. Mike Pompeo has said that we need to end the peace talks. Mike Pompeo has said that the war should continue. And they're now seeing elements of the CIA apparatus and other national security apparatuses within the current Trump administration, within the current government of the United States, that are loyal now to Brennan. They're loyal to Clapper. They were those guys that were put up and promoted during the Biden administration. So they got started, remember, under Obama. They were never fired. Then under Biden, they were put into positions of power. Steve, they are still in those positions of power, and they have gone rogue.
Wow.
So we have
shots fired.
Well, we came out of one presidency where we didn't know who was in charge, and we come into another one and we think we know who's in charge, but it seems like there's still a lot of things going on, behind closed doors. The deep state, anybody. I mean, a couple of years ago, you say the words deep state and you're called a conspiracy theorist. But now I think these are conspiracy facts. These are not theories, right?
Conspiracy facts. I love it.
So I mean, what are we to make of this? If this is this a case where Trump is insulating himself so that he can still play both sides of the fence, or is this truly a case where the President of the United States knows nothing about what our CIA and what our deep state is doing?
I think it's a case of there are so many rogue actors embedded into this multinational organization that has their tentacles into everything that I'm not even sure. Of course, this is his second term. This is Trump's second term. And he had a 4-year hiatus where he could plan this out. And we've seen it go smoother than a lot of people predicted it would, because he had a 4-year hiatus where he could plan it out. But these folks are embedded in there so deep, and the tentacles are everywhere that they don't know who is where and doing what. That's what I think it is. It's so hard to root these people out. They're like these. It's like when your dog goes into the woods hunting with you and gets ticks, and you find yourself picking out ticks for the next month, and they're just everywhere. That's the best analogy I can come up with.
So I mean, with a dog, at least you can treat your dog for ticks before you take him to the woods. But
Exactly.
here you've got no way to treat. You can't treat this,
especially with rogue judges, right?
Yeah,
Especially with rogue judges, can't fire them.
Every time he tries to do anything, whether it's lay off the people in the government or eliminate institutions that were created by executive power, like the education department, he's being blocked at every turn, and he's unable to do so. So where do we go from here? I mean, how do we clean up? How does it do we just, are they going to simply wait him out and do what they're going to do and just ignore it? Or, I mean,
so we were talking about this earlier. That's my fear. my fear is they're going to wait him out. If I were, oh goodness, if I were king for a day, what would what would I do? He doesn't have the ability to fire. Apparently, he doesn't have the ability to fire, but I wonder if he has the ability to silo. And what I mean by silo is take these rogue actors, or at least root them out where you know where they're at, and silo them in a way where they're completely ineffectual and toothless. Make them as toothless as possible, or play dirty pool. I mean, this sounds terrible. But play dirty pool. Initiate investigations against all of them.
Well, but
that sounds terrible. But
in order to do so, you have to have the full power of Congress behind you. And as we've seen time and time again, Republicans are spineless. Right now, the Republicans could starve the CIA of money. They could
play by rules.
starve the FBI of money. The current Republican own the House and the Senate and the presidency. Where are these Republicans at? Where are you at, Mike? Where are you at? What's the Senate leader, Thune? Where are you at?
Rick Scott, right?
Well, where are these guys at?
Right.
Where are these guys at?
Right.
Right. I mean,
and I love Rick Scott. So I'm just wondering where the representatives from my state, great state of Florida, where are they at? Where I'm not trying to call them out because I love them. I try to help get them elected, but where are they at? What are we doing? You're exactly right. 100%.
Yeah. I mean, spineless. I mean, if what Posobiec just put out, if that is, provable 100% fact, and Donald Trump knew nothing about it, we have a true constitutional crisis that the Democrats keep screaming about. That is a true constitutional crisis when a duly elected president who is given all of these powers by us because we elected him,
right,
and he is being subverted by unelected bureaucrats and unelected deep state individuals. We have a true constitutional crisis where we are no longer a constitutional republic, and we are 1 foot in the grave, or 1 foot into communism, where the country is not being run by who we think it's being run by.
This is a man who was elected by popular mandate, by the will of the people. And in my humble opinion, the first president, definitely in my lifetime, and probably in all of the 21st century, probably in all of the 20th century, who really, really has the American people's best interests at heart. And they are terrified. They're threatened. They're completely threatened by what's going on. And you're seeing the machine act in ways that's unpredictable. They don't know what to do. And I don't think it's just the Democrats. It's both sides of it. They don't know how to react.
Well, the machine is self-protecting, right? I mean,
correct.
It's going to always protect itself.
Mm-hmm. That's right.
Against anything that comes in. It's like the white blood cells in the body.
Right.
It's going to attack anything that comes in that they don't want, that threatens their existence or threatens their well-being. Right.
Ask JFK.
Yeah. Exactly.
Ask JFK. Right.
Regardless of what is right for the American people, we are so far past what is right for the American people with this government, with these unelected bureaucrats, with these activist judges. We are so far past what is good for the American people. I don't know where we go from here. I truly don't know where we go.
It's so if he went fully radical, which he hasn't, and he hasn't even come close to going what the Democrats tried to warn everyone against coming up. Oh, he's a threat to democracy. He hasn't even come close. I think it's one of those things, and I hope this is not true, and the ardent patriot in me hopes this not true, but I fear it's one of those things that maybe to save it, you have to break it just a little bit, just to save it. I in my heart of hearts, I hope that's not the case.
Well, let me start this off by saying, I am not condoning violence. I am not
Right.
asking for this. I am simply stating a fact.
Right.
Every country has gone through a revolution. Now,
Mhm.
I don't consider the American Revolution, quote unquote, this country's revolution. That was a
Right.
revolution to start this country. But if you look
Right.
at the French Revolution, if you look at all the other countries' revolutions, I mean, that is that is the people against their government. Now, our American Revolution, again, was a little bit different. But I mean, we always hear of civil war. I don't think civil war would
No.
solve anything. Civil war would cause a lot of
No.
problems.
No.
But
No.
I think a revolution may be more likely because more and more people are getting fed up with the government. Now, I think January 6th and what happened post January 6th with the Biden administration, I think that puts a lot of fear in people because we saw people incarcerated for 4 years with no due process that the Democrats cry for every illegal that's being deported. uh, I think that does squash some of that, but I don't really think we're too far off from it because people are getting fed up.
Where I think this goes, and honestly, this may be a slight segue off topic or segue into something else entirely, but I think where we are at as a society is right now you have two political parties in this country. You have two, and it's been that way since basically the Civil War. It's been that way since the Whigs dissipated, and you have the Republican and Democrat parties. I think in our lifetime, 100%, probably by the 2030s and mid 2030s, 2040, you're going to see 3 to 4 major political parties, not just the Green Party with 1 or 2 members in Congress, or I'm talking 3 to 4. I think the Democrat Party is going to be the first party to have a major schism, a major fracture. You'll see that fracture followed by the Republican Party, and the wing of that's going to fracture off are going to be the moderate, I like to call them the Rhino Republicans, from the MAGA Republicans. That's going to fracture. The Democrats are going to fracture. And I think why we end up, Rob, in our lifetime is going to be four major parties. And honestly, that I'm not sure if that fixes anything, but I believe that would be good for the country in a way. It'll give us more points of view and more dissenting opinions. I mean, that may lead to, I mean, it may lead to chaos. I just think there needs to be more voices heard at this
Yeah.
point.
Well, I
Yeah.
mean, we've had in the past, we've had the Green Party, right? And the Green Party always seems
But
to
those aren't real parties to me.
well, they always put up some lunatic, uh,
Right.
I mean, what was
Jill
the
Stein, wasn't Jill Stein a Green Party?
yeah, yeah.
Right,
I mean,
right.
they always put up. I mean, what was the guy that they ran like? What is an Aleppo? He didn't know where Aleppo
Right,
was. I'm
right,
like, are you
right,
kidding me? Now, I think if we had 4 or more, I think that would be better.
right, right, right.
I think 2 is no longer the answer.
No,
I
no, it
think.
hasn't
I mean,
been.
especially when you have people go independent like Bernie Sanders, who always votes Democrat.
Right.
Why do you continue to lie to your constituents, and why do your constituents allow you to lie to them? I mean, you're not an independent. You're a Democrat. Period.
I
You
think
even
right,
ran on the Democrat ticket,
right,
and they yanked the rug out from underneath
right.
you, and you went crying back to them.
100%. I think the AOC wing, whatever the squad, whatever you want to call that, I think that's going to be the, she falls under the Bernie Sanders-ish umbrella. I think that's going to be a schism. That's going to be a schism. That's going to be this is my weird conspiracy theory of how it's going to fracture, but I don't think it's that. I mean, this isn't far-fetched. This is I mean, all the stuff we've seen come out in the last few years, this is completely plausible. There's going to be a schism. It's going to break. It's not going to be a wing of the Democrat Party. It is going to fracture. When your popularity isn't even at 20%, it has to fracture.
I mean,
It has to fracture.
Congress overall has had a low double digit approval rating for decades, right? I mean, nobody
Decades.
approves of them. But you're right. The Democrat Party right now is, I mean,
Mhm.
they're a rudderless ship. They don't
Mhm.
they don't have they don't have
Completely.
a captain. They don't have a
100%.
a rudder. They're just kind of floating around.
There
Uh,
is no captain.
Now, what I'm hoping doesn't happen, and it always happens. So I'm probably throwing it out there in the ether because it'll happen sooner than later. Um,
Putting out the
is
bad juju.
well, Republicans can't seem to get out of their own way, right? I
Right.
mean, they're spineless. They get into a majority. They do nothing, and when
Well,
they,
play it safe.
yeah, they
I keep
continue to
away.
play it safe. Yeah, that's a good segue into the next video I wanted to show.
Mhm.
Nick Fritas, who is part of the Virginia House of Delegates as
Mhm.
a Republican, a
Mhm.
former Green Beret.
Mhm.
I think he is actually leaving office. I don't know what he's going to do,
Mhm.
but he's leaving office.
Mhm.
But I want to play a video on, and he nails this perfectly.
Mhm.
Democrats are in power, they're not afraid to do things that will cause them to lose power temporarily if it means they get the sort of permanent structural changes that will ensure that they get back power in the future. And Republicans are not. They're not willing to do it. They're not willing to make the cuts. They're not willing to go back and make an argument to somebody and tell somebody no. The Democrats and the progressives have operated under the understanding that if they move as far and as fast as they possibly can when they have power, even when they lose intermittent elections, they'll be back and they'll have a bigger bureaucracy to work with, a bigger budget to work with, and they'll be able to manipulate it in the ways they want to push their ideological agenda at the expense of taxpayers. Republicans, on the other hand, it's like, no, we got to keep the majority because we got to stop all the things the progressives are doing. If you don't exercise the power the voters have given you in order to do the things that you said you would do, you will lose power. They lose power temporarily because they move too fast. You lose it because you don't do enough.
He hits
Wow.
it right on the head. Right on the head.
Good.
I've been saying this forever. The goalposts get moved every Democrat majority we have,
Mhm.
and the
Mhm.
Republicans, being the spineless ones they are, never move the goalposts back.
That's right.
They just accept that as the new norm and try to go forward. And then they put on these dog and pony shows.
Mhm.
Oh, we're going to have all of these hearings. I don't want
Mhm.
hearings. I want to
Mhm.
see people. I want to see, like the Democrats did to Roger Stone. I want to see you go into an 80-year-old's house and pull him out in his underwear and handcuffs. I want to see Chuck Schumer dragged from his house in handcuffs in his underwear. I want you to go raid Nancy Pelosi's house and go digging through her underwear drawer
We can
like you
send that
did
guy
Melania.
back to her house.
Yeah, like you did Melania Trump.
Right.
I want to see that.
Right. Right.
But Republicans are spineless. Now,
Well,
I had high hopes for Pam Bondi. I had high hopes for Kash Patel. Bringing on Dan Bongino. He talks a good game. I'm starting to lose a lot of faith in him. I'm seeing nothing.
I know we're going to talk about the Epstein files in a bit, so I'll wait on that. But, a lot of the Pam Bondi pushback is coming from that. It's coming from that. I'm from Florida, so I am a fan. But you're absolutely right. He hit that. I mean, he nailed that. It's kind of hard to refute what he's saying. I do have a bit of trepidation handing back over power to the Democrats because I know how wacky their ideology is. And I used this analogy the other day. It's like we're stuck in a pendulum, right? We're stuck in a pendulum, and a pendulum can do one of three things. It can swing wildly and eventually settle in the middle. I don't think we're there at all. Or it can swing wildly and get stuck to one side. I do think that's a distinct possibility.
Well,
Or
we've seen
it,
that. We've seen
right,
that.
right. Or it can swing wildly and collapse. I hope we're not there. So there's a large part of me that is afraid to hand back power to the party of crazy. I agree with everything he said, 100%. So yes, we need to move forward with the mandate given to us by the American people, 100%. But at the same time, is there a way to do it and not hand back power to crazy? I think so. as long as we keep pushing common sense policies. I mean, I do believe there's enough people in this country who don't want to see men in women's bathrooms and men in boxing rings beating up on women.
Right.
You know,
Right.
I'm sure there has to be enough. There has to be 51% of this country that believes that's wrong.
Right.
Things like that are wacky, and the party of wacky thinks things like that are okay.
Well, I mean, until the Mike Johnsons, until the
Right.
you know the I
Right.
mean, we've gotten rid of a couple of others, but until those individuals are driven from the party. Now, I'm a big Rand Paul fan. I'm a big Massey out of Kentucky fan. They're logical people and they look at things. You don't increase the budget with a promise to decrease it. No, show me.
Right.
You can show me you want to decrease the budget by decreasing the budget.
Right.
Only after you have
Right.
decreased it to a point where we are no longer running a deficit. Show me you can do that first. And then we can start having a conversation on how you want to spend money. But until you get your house under control, until you get your spending under control, you need to not be able to spend another dime.
Right. I think Rand Paul's big pushback, and correct me if I'm wrong, I think his current big pushback isn't so much what's in the bill other than lifting the debt ceiling. That's
well, I
his,
mean,
is that his
the
big
bill
pushback? I think that's
increases
his big pushback.
the current
Big beautiful bill.
big beautiful bill increases the debt by another $5 trillion because he's throwing a bunch into
the debt ceiling, though. It raises the debt ceiling by
well,
like
you
$2.5
have
trillion,
to raise the debt ceiling because you're going to increase it by $5 trillion. So he's throwing a bunch of money into the military, which we both support. I fully agree with that.
100%.
But in the same sense, you have to get the CIA, the FBI, the Pentagon, you have to get their budgets reduced, right? You have to get those budgets down and hold them accountable to where
100%.
that spending is going. I mean, I fully agreed with what Doge was doing. We don't need to be spending money on Sesame Street in goddamn
Iraq.
In Iraq.
Right.
That's not what the American
100%.
taxpayers need to spend their money on. We don't need transgender surgeries in Bogota, Colombia, or wherever the hell they were doing. We don't need to be spending that money. We need to get that under control. Don't tell me, don't make more promises because we know the government doesn't keep promises. They're not capable of keeping promises. Show me with actions, show me with results that you can do what you say you're going to do. Then we can have a conversation about spending money where you want to spend it.
That's right.
Now,
well, so there was I was watching Fox News, and I think it was Jesse Waters was talking about that there's some pork in this bill, but there's pork in all of them. No, if you took out a lot of the pork, and pork, what is pork? It's the pet projects for the different districts. So this congressman so-and-so won't vote. The way you earn his vote is by funding construction of such and such freeway in his district. Take that shit out of the bill. Take that out of the bill. I'm not sure. I'm pretty sure that's not going to lower the bill by $5 trillion, but maybe it lowers it by $1 trillion. So let's start there. Take the pork out. Really, I want the representatives to serve the people. Take your pork out. If the people in your district are not voting for you unless you're going to get a bridge funded, then you know what? Maybe you weren't that good of a candidate to begin with.
Well, and you have state budgets, right? States have budgets. That's where that money should be spent, right?
Right.
And I want single line item bills. I don't want all these thousands of pages. Put up a bill that says we're going to give Israel $2 billion and see if you support Israel, see where your representative votes. And if you don't support Israel, see where your representative votes. If your representative votes for it and you don't support Israel, then that representative doesn't get your vote the next time. And that's the way it should be. That's the way it was designed to be. We should be able to see where they're voting for. But they've created this blanket for everybody, this cover, so that they can hide underneath it and say, oh, well, I had to vote for it because of this, or I had to vote for it because of this. and they vote with the party what's good for, quote unquote, the party, not what's good for the American people. Give me single line out. I don't care if you've got to do 3,000 bills this year.
Right.
Give me 3,000 single line item bills and let everybody see where they vote.
Or bring back the line item veto. Like, didn't they do away with that? I mean, that's no longer a thing. I mean, I thought they did away with that.
Or not. Yeah.
But I mean, so it's all this pork. I mean, so do we have what, 220, 221, 222 seats in Congress? I guarantee you there are 222 at least minimum pet projects in that thing. Just so you get everyone to vote for it. Okay, I'm going to get you to vote for this just so I can get a dog walking park in your district.
Rand Paul does his report every year, and one of the things that he put out a couple of years ago was how the voting for foreign aid happens. Right? Mm-hmm. They don't say, "Here's a bill to give foreign aid to Afghanistan. Here's a bill to give foreign aid to Bangladesh. Here's a bill for foreign aid for the Congo." It's one bill. It says, here is $3 trillion. Here's our foreign aid package. USAID and Pentagon, go spend this how you want. Mm-hmm. And in doing so, we're giving countries that hate us. We're giving countries that hate us money. Stop giving money to countries that hate us. You know, if you're giving a penny to Iran, you shouldn't be. They hate us. 100%. Don't give it to them. You know, we need to bring that, you know, to the front. Vote on single out every country and their foreign aid package. It doesn't matter if one country gets more than the other. That's fine. It doesn't matter if some countries don't get any. Right. That's fine. If they hate us and they stand in the streets and scream death to America, guess what? You don't get any money this year.
Doesn't really matter if they're broke.
Yeah.
They can scream whatever they want being broke.
I watched the video, and it was I forget what, I think it was Ethiopia. It was the former president of Ethiopia, and Trump had canceled the amount of money we were giving them. Mm-hmm. And he got up there and he said, what are you crying for? It's not your money. It's not your bank account. They were giving you that money out of the goodness of their heart. Why are you crying when they decided not to give you money? He owes you nothing. That's their bank account. Go fix it yourself. It's
like they feel entitled to the U.S. taxpayers' dollars. Every U.S. taxpayer, it should incense them that a foreign entity feels entitled to your tax dollars.
Yeah. I understand the premise is if we don't give them money, China will. And they'll go running to BRICS. And if they go running to BRICS, which a lot of countries have, we're going to end up with the American dollar no longer being the world's currency. And I agree that that is a threat. But there's a better way to do it than just carte blanche, setting American tax money on fire, right? You know, Iran is going to join BRICS no matter what. Iran is not going to continue to.
That's correct.
Especially if
Russia may, right.
Yeah. Especially if we continue to keep sanctions on them. They are not going to come, you know, hey, U.S., let's be best friends. Right, you know, we're having a barbecue this weekend. Come on over. You know, that's not going to happen. So we can do this better. And instead of this just setting the American tax money on fire. So.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. So let's get to the elephant in the room. The latest tweet by Musk.
Oh, here we go. This is it.
Yes.
This is great. I've been waiting on this one.
Yeah. So come on. There we go.
Adjust myself in my seat here.
So Elon sent this tweet out earlier and several more. There's a couple of tweets that follow this. This screen capture was done a little earlier today. And Trump followed up with a tweet about, you know, pulling all of Musk, you know, we can save a lot of money by pulling all the grants that Musk has and stuff like that. So it's like, it's two petulant children, you know, throwing sand on the playground. But the problem is, this is two of the most powerful people in the world. This is the richest man and the president of the United States.
And the most powerful man.
and the most powerful man. And when
Yeah.
things, well, to an extent, I mean, we saw the deal from Posobiec, but
Yeah.
uh, our our enemies are looking at this going, here we go. We just had 4 years of an incompetent president. Now we've got 4 years coming of a guy who can't even hold cordial with somebody that he just had as part of his administration.
Well, so I have an analogy to throw out there, and I have to make sure that that I don't get you in trouble with this analogy. But so it's like that. We were both in the military a while, and it's like that military couple that we all lived next to or all knew that that they always fought, right? And then the husband locked the wife out, and then the wife goes on Facebook and she posts some salacious stuff about the husband. He does this and that, and it's just the most terrible stuff ever. That's what this is. And the sad thing is, this isn't good for anybody. I know there are Democrats, jumping up and down. Oh, this is great. It shows you what the real dysfunction is. No, this isn't good for anybody. We needed these two men to work together. And I actually think that they will likely mend this up. I just think that this is an argument between good friends. Unfortunately, it's an argument between two massively rich and powerful and egotistical good friends who have mega platforms. One has X and the other has Truth Social.
Right.
It's great in terms of like talking points.
Sure, it's
not good for the
entertainment.
country.
I mean, it's
Not
entertainment
good
for
for the
sure.
country.
I don't know where to land on this one.
Right.
I try not. I try, like with almost anything, I try to, let the facts speak. Right. If Elon Musk has proof, show it. Right. Show the world you have it. Now, if he doesn't have proof, he's risking getting sued by Trump for. Now, I don't know if Trump can sue for something like that. I don't know. Trump is
I
sued
don't think
happy.
he can.
Trump will throw a lawsuit out there, in a heartbeat.
We already know that his name does show up simply because he and Epstein shared flights.
Yeah.
They shared flights. I mean, that's benign. So we know that he shows up. The place where this does kind of make one's head scratch is the whole, and this is the conspiracy theorist in me. And I believe you said the other day, and it was great. We were talking, and you had said, if you're not a conspiracy theorist now, you're not normal. Is that what you said, or something along those?
Yeah.
And I'm like, what? I think Rob's right. But the conspiracy theorist in me, there's been a lot of pushback on Pam Bondi and Kash Patel about the Epstein files. A lot. That's where a lot of their pushback is. I think outside the Epstein files, there was no pushback about the JFK stuff because no reasonable person expected the JFK files to come out and say, oh yeah, no, here's the gunman on the grassy knoll, and it was Sean Connery. I mean, no one expected that.
Right.
What those files did show was a massively incompetent federal government. But in terms of the Epstein files, this is, she promised a release. It didn't happen. Yeah. To my knowledge, still hasn't happened. Right. And now this coming out from Elon Musk, it just makes the wheels spin. I mean, would he know this? Would Pam Bondi and Kash Patel trust this knowledge around Elon Musk? Or I think what's more believable is maybe Donald and Elon were sitting up in the residence, and maybe Donald's like, oh, this Epstein thing. I mean, you can just conspiracy theory this all day. This Epstein thing, and apparently I'm in it. I mean, right. It could be anything. I mean, I think it's just him just going on X and just trying to mess with DJT, which is also not smart. But
well, there's a couple of things. One, Trump showed up, and the answer was that his plane was being repaired. Now, I've seen years ago things on Trump's plane, and he's very particular about his plane. Serial numbers have to match. Like if you get an engine replaced, I mean, like he goes down to that detail for his personal plane.
Right.
So why would somebody ride with Epstein if they have their own personal plane? Now I can understand not taking Air Force One.
Didn't Epstein ride with him, or maybe I'm wrong?
I think it was the other way around. I think Trump's plane was being worked on. I could be wrong.
We have to Google that one.
Yeah, but the other
I don't trust Google, but still.
Yeah, the next thing in that, if Trump was in there in any shape, form, or fashion, do you not think the Democrats would have released that 4 years ago? Do you not think that they would have released that his first run for president? I mean, they tried to get him with this Russiagate bullshit. Do you not think that they would have, during his presidency, the first time, released that information? But on the other side, Musk does have his cast of minions that are digging through data, and we know, it doesn't matter how secure your environment is. It's not if you get hacked. It's when you get hacked, and when the vulnerability is found, and when somebody is willing to leak something. So did one of his minions find something and he has proof? We don't know.
So that's a very good point.
I want to add one more thing to that. And you and I talked about this the other day.
Yeah.
Other than in Washington, where blackmail we know is prevalent. Why in the world would anybody keep that information? Why is that not sitting at the bottom of a volcano somewhere? That is like pure cancer to touch.
It's compromise. And I mean, I fully believe that Epstein was, and this is another conspiracy theory. I mean, you hear Joe Rogan talk about this all the time. I fully believe that Epstein was just a CIA, a tool of the intel agencies, and they used him to just collect compromise on everyone, and he just had it on everyone. And I think someone just posted it was mutually assured destruction. I would agree with that only if Trump had access to the same information. It's because we're saying, why didn't the Dems release that when Biden had these 4 years in office, right? Well, I mean, there could be someone that had access to the files that say, hey, if you release this about Trump, then we'll put all the stuff out about Bill and Hillary. Of course, they could get, you got to be careful with Bill and Hillary. People disappear in their wake all the time. So
higher body count than what's that porn star out of the Middle East?
Okay.
That's a pretty high.
I'm trying to be okay on your podcast, and then you throw that out.
But that is just, what? Why hasn't it come out? Trump promised it, right? He said in his campaign he wanted it released. Would he make that promise knowing either A, he's not going to release it, or B, he's in there? I don't think he would release it if he thought he was in there.
Well, okay. So
or it's just another lie to get elected.
Let's just throw something else out. So one, how hard would it be if he's in there? He's a president. I mean, I'm not accusing him of anything. I'm just, let's put on our tinfoil hats. How hard would it be? You're the president now, Rob. How hard would it be for you, the Attorney General, and Kash Patel to make sure permanently anything that's about you that's in those files is no longer in? It's kind of like the JFK files. anything that was in those files that pointed to anyone long time ago got burned in the bottom of a volcano.
Right.
So anything that's in there about Trump, you don't think he would have burned in the bottom of a volcano? Now, what I think is more likely is that there's probably just as much stuff in there about prominent Republicans and Republican donors and conservative backers as there are on the liberal and leftist side. That's what I think. I think both sides have dirt, that Epstein was the ultimate CIA intel collection mechanism. Like, he had his Epstein Island and it was this big funnel and he just collected on just everybody and he didn't discriminate. He had pictures of Bill Clinton on his wall and the mini skirt and the dress and whatever. He just collected. He didn't discriminate. This dude just collected everywhere. That's what I think. I think if Donald Trump is in these things, he would deep six himself out of that.
I
think
doubt very seriously.
Yeah.
There is just one copy. He can't deep six.
That.
We live in a digital age. We live in, you know, again, Washington is this cesspool of just degeneracy. And what can I hold over you to get you to come to my side? Not that I can convince you with a normal argument like adults do. Let me hold something over your head to control you to do what I want you to do.
That's right.
You know, it's like we're being governed by a bunch of goddamn children that every one of them needs their ass spanked and put in the corner for the next half century and let the adults take over.
It only takes one crazy leaker, one person that says, you know what? I don't give a shit anymore. Of course, they're going to destroy the credibility of this person if this person doesn't mysteriously hang themselves, you know, or just commit suicide. But it only takes one.
Well, I'll go.
One. Who's that one going to be?
I'll extend this conspiracy a little bit. How much do you want to bet the takedown of WikiLeaks was to make sure they had control over the data that could have leaked, because he always had a kill switch and they had to make sure they took that guy down so that they could control that information and not let any of it out.
Do you know that there was a time and I've worked in and around government a long time, right? And there was a time when I was all for, I'm like, you know what, this WikiLeaks thing is wrong. They need to prosecute this guy, and we need to get this guy from the UK. I keep forgetting his name, the WikiLeaks guy, but I mean, it's been that long that he's been out of the news. But I used to be in that camp of, and now I'm like, you know what? This guy was a real threat to
a lot of people, a lot of
people. And you know what? I got totally hoodwinked along with billions of other people.
Yeah.
Julian Assange.
Yes.
Julian Assange. That's it. That's right. Thank you, Doug.
Yeah.
So
Julian Assange.
Yeah.
Julian
Assange.
I would almost bet he's tied in there somewhere. I would to all of this. You know, the other conspiracy part of that is it's not the CIA, it's Mossad out of Israel. Israel controls it.
Oh God. Yeah.
You know.
Wow.
Yeah. Which, I mean, Mossad, if depending on who you talk to, is more, I'll just say, more crafty and more skilled than the CIA is. So.
Yeah. 100%. Yeah, man. This is deep. I mean, we
could go way down the rabbit hole on this one.
We could riff all day on this one.
I've heard conspiracies that Musk and Trump are colluding on this together, making it all public so that they could get the Democrats to agree to release the files. To, you know, this is simply what it appears to be, and two egotistical maniacs just throwing a temper tantrum and throwing sand on the playground. So
I just think it's in both these guys have very similar personalities. I mean, you can't get to where these guys are at in life without being extremely narcissistic and egotistical. I mean, it's kind of like Michael Jordan. You could not be Michael Jordan without being as maniacal and just as narcissistic and egotistical as that dude has to be to want to be the very best at what he does.
Well,
And
do
I
you
think
think
these guys are exactly the same.
do you think they're that way? You know, it's the age old question: is man good or evil, right? So, do you think they're that way from the beginning, or do you think they become that way as they become successful? Because you can be maniacal, and if you're not successful, you're just an asshole, right?
I think they have those traits, and you combine it with a high level of intelligence. It's like anything. So I'll go back to Michael Jordan. He has those super competitive, those traits, but like if he has my athletic ability, he's not going to the NBA.
Right.
He's not going to be on TV. He has to have the skill.
Right.
They always said there were tons of guys that had Michael Jordan's physical ability, but they just didn't have this. And I mean, there's plenty of guys who are as smart as Elon Musk. He's not the only one.
Right.
But
Yeah.
just to have that little extra, there's plenty of guys like Donald Trump. I mean, there's guys that have more money, and there's people who are more successful in business than Donald Trump. I mean, you look, he got a modest $5 million loan from his dad in 1968. You know what I mean?
Right.
I mean, so there are people who are more successful, but they have a little extra. And I think it's the combination of those things that is the perfect mixture concoction that makes them this entity that they are.
Right.
And I'm
But
just glad
you can be successful like Warren Buffett. I mean, I don't know the guy, obviously.
Right.
I probably can't even sit in the same state with the guy. But anyway,
Right.
I mean, he's very successful.
Right.
But he doesn't have any of those traits, at least from what I've seen. He seems to be a very intelligent person, but he's not this evil, egotistical type person.
We don't know him. We don't know him. I mean, it's true. It's true. I do think when you're in the room, I don't know him. I'll it's 99.99% sure that I'll never know him. But I guarantee you, if you're in the boardroom with that dude, and it comes down to a cold business decision, even if he knew that it would make you homeless and your kids would never eat again, and he would take the food out of your last puppy's mouth and it would increase his net worth by 50 cents. I bet you he'd do it.
Yeah. Putting on a good face for the public.
And I don't necessarily know if that makes him evil.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Trump also has that, he got the taste of it with his TV show, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he wants to be, this TV president, this TV personality.
Right.
And he's on that all the time. I mean, he is, I think he's truly capable of saying things in almost any situation that are not controversial, that are not calling Rosie O'Donnell a fat pig. He doesn't have to. He's capable of not saying that. He just simply doesn't want to not say that.
He knows what puts butts. Mike Tyson said it best. Controversy, I believe he said something along the lines of controversy puts butts in the seats. He knows what puts butts in the seats. He knows what he's been on TV since the mid to late 70s. Yeah. I mean, he's really more so than Ronald Reagan. Even he's really the first hardcore television personality president. Yeah. He is the first one. He's the first of his kind, a reality TV president.
Yeah. I don't know. Had reality TV existed, I think Kennedy would have been on that. I mean, with his, Marilyn Monroe and all of that. I mean, that was pretty close.
Could he even be president now? I'm not even sure.
I mean, if you go back in history, I mean, we look at, we often look at things through the lens of today, right? And if you go back and study history, controversy around the presidency has been there the whole time.
The
I
whole
mean, what was
time.
it? What was it? Garfield was so obese he had to be helped out of the bathtub because he would.
That was Taft. I think that was Taft. It was Taft. Yeah, it was Taft.
I mean, just the little things
They
like
had to
that.
put lard in the tub just to
Yeah.
help that man get
Yeah.
out. And then it was Woodrow. It was Woodrow Wilson. His wife practically ran the country for a year and a half.
Yeah.
I mean, that. Honestly, that may be a good segue into the autopen.
I'm sure. Oh yeah, we completely skipped over autopen. Let's talk about autopen real quick.
Yeah.
So it was reported today that out of the over 4,000 pardons, 4,245 pardons that were signed under the Biden administration, only one did Biden physically sign himself. So he signed Hunter Biden's pardon. Now,
I have a theory on that.
Now, was the theory he wanted to make sure it was 100% legit? Or was it that he was thinking, this is so personal to me for my son that I want to do it? So he didn't do it for James. He didn't do it for his brother.
No.
I don't know what he thinks of his brother. Maybe they don't get
Totally
along.
not Fauci.
Yeah. Didn't do it for Fauci.
No.
But it definitely brings into question, is this going to be challenged in the courts?
I think it was not only personal for him, it was personal for Jill, it was personal for the whole family. So I hate to admit it, but even as a hardcore conservative, I read Jake Tapper's book, right? And well, I had the audio book, so it was read to me, right? And it says in the book, if you choose to believe all of it, that there were times that there were certain key moments that people around him noticed when the decline, when the full effect of what was happening took place. And one of them was when Hunter Biden's charges, when his plea deal fell apart and you could just see the sand in the hourglass of just him being there, just drained. And as a father, I put myself in the shoes of someone who lost a young wife in the early 70s. He lost a young son and a young wife in like 72 when he first got into the Senate. And then he lost his second son to brain cancer, right, in 2015. And God, if I was president, I would have pardoned him if he was my son. And I hate to admit that as a conservative, but as a father, I would have sacrificed another term. I wouldn't even have waited that long.
Well, that was going to be my next thing. Let's talk about pardons real quick. So it has to be a federal offense, right? The president can't pardon himself, right? He can't do any pardons for impeachment.
Not under impeachment. That's right.
He can't pardon for civil cases, right? So if you had a civil something, right? Pardons can be granted at any time after the crime is committed, but not before indictment or trial. So Hunter Biden's trial, everything came down. He was indicted, right?
He was convicted.
That answers why he wasn't pardoned day one, right? So he waited. But these open-ended pardons for James Biden,
blanket
for
pardon,
Fauci, for the January 6th committee. Now, what federal crimes have any of those committed? Have any of those been indicted on? Have any of those been accused of?
So the theory is the open-ended pardons were for any and everything under the sun federally during those time frames. We do go back to the Nixon pardon, and when Ford pardoned Nixon, if you look at the pardon, he didn't just pardon him for Watergate. He pardoned him for everything from January 20th, 1969, the day he took office, until the day he left office. He pardoned him for all federal crimes during that time frame. So and I would imagine if there was going to be a legal challenge to, I mean, I get your argument, and I'm not a lawyer by any means, but part of me agrees with the argument, but I still feel if there would be a legal challenge to that, it would have happened then.
Right.
It would have happened well.
The
I didn't think of this
January
earlier,
6th.
but yeah.
Yeah, the January 6th committee, that was a at the federal level, right? Okay.
Right.
Those guys, whatever. James Biden, Fauci, what is preventing 50 states from going after him for civil liability?
Oh, I don't know.
He can't be pardoned for civil liability. I just read it. It does not apply to civil cases. If they go after him for civil liability, if every Republican controlled state goes after Fauci for civil liability for what he did, he can't be, it's not covered under a pardon.
I have to speak it to the camera. If there's a God out there, someone must bring a case against Anthony Fauci. That is the biggest mass murderer in U.S. history.
He's got a bigger body count than the Clintons.
Oh my God! Please, going back to the AIDS crisis.
Yeah.
Oh
yeah.
goodness! Please.
Yeah.
Please.
I think the unfortunate thing is, you know, just like we have with a lot of the crimes in Congress, all of these people are aging out. Even if we started taking them to court, they'll never see the inside of a jail cell. You know, Nancy Pelosi's what, 80, I don't know, 188.
Fauci's in his 80s too.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, I think Nancy Pelosi's 488. She's been there a long time. So, yeah.
Yeah.
All right. We covered a lot of topics. That was a lot of stuff.
That was great.
I mean, I told you an hour goes by real quick.
It was great, man.
Any last things you want to talk about?
No, man, I was, thanks for the opportunity. Thanks for having me here. I've been wanting to come on for a bit. I know Rob the Unpaid is always been talking about this podcast, and we're colleagues at work and friends. And, this has been a huge honor. So thank you, brother.
I appreciate you coming on. There's never a shortage of topics, especially with Trump in the presidency. So, all right, hang out a little bit, and we'll catch everybody next week. Don't forget to visit our sponsors: Marvita, your go-to for sport fishing in Cabo San Lucas; Gear for Grunts, rapid access magazine pods for your AR-style rifles; Alpha Elite Performance, take your workouts to the next level; Enlisted 9 Fight Company, go-to apparel for veterans and first responders; and bowhammer.com. So thank you and have a good evening.